Well, hey everyone. Happy Math Crush Monday all. I'm going to check to make sure we're going here. I think we are. I'm glad that you're here. Happy summer. I know so many of you are in summer and so many of you are so close. You're almost there. You can do this. Right? So I think at the most, some of you have maybe 2 weeks. Let me know in the comments how many more days of school you have. Some of you finished right before Memorial Day. Congratulations. We are talking tonight about the remembering side of the homework. So I'm going to be sharing some screen sharing here just a little bit, making sure that you see some examples of the remembering. So if you are new to math expressions, if you've never taught with it before, just post a comment, say I'm new here. That's going to just help me to know how many of you have used it before, how many of you don't even know what I'm talking about. So if you're like, I've used remembering, but here's my issues with it, or I'm new to math expressions, I've never used it, the more you can tell me in the comments below, the better I'm going to be able to meet your needs tonight, specifically around this topic of remembering. So my friend Sarah had posted this question. Hi, Sarah from Mukilteo, because they're looking into some summer school and then also doing some work next school year. Hey, Cambria, glad you're here. So she was talking about this remembering. So here's what we have. There's a separate book in Math Expressions called the Homework and Remembering book. So every student gets a student activity book, and we call it the SAB. Okay, so it's called the Student Activity Book. It is the consumable. Now, this is going to get kind of complicated, so hang in with me, okay? There is a book, there's an SAB, okay, and we call that the Student Activity Book. Then there is a activity book, which is different, okay? If it's not the SAB and they just call it the activity book, that is just the consumable pages that they felt like if you were by the textbook, okay? So in some states, depending on what state you're in, don't even have the option of textbooks. You can only get the student activity book, which is all the consumables. Other states have the option of also buying an actual hardbound textbook. So oftentimes our upper grades will get the hardbound textbook, and then they'll also buy what they call the activity book. Okay, so that's different because that includes only the consumable pages that they felt like a teacher would need to have actual copies of, like go and make a photocopy of those worksheets. So they put that in a separate book. So it's not every page of the textbook. It's only pages that really students would need to write on. Okay, so that's called the activity book, and that is a supplement to the textbook. All right, so your students probably have one or the other. They either have the student activity book, which is the consumable book, or they have the activity book that goes with the textbook. Okay, so that's a little complicated. But then they have the Homework and Remembering book. And the Homework and Remembering book is a consumable. And again, it depends on what state you're in. They threw it into several of the packages, quote unquote, for many of the states. So it just comes bundled. Whether you want it or not, you get it. So a lot of states like California, you got it. You got the student activity book, and it comes bundled with the Homework and Remembering book. And it comes bundled with the whiteboard every year, right? Other states, you have to choose to opt into that. Some states have bought just the master. They call it the Blackline Master book. So they didn't get everyone the consumable consumable Homework and Remembering book. Instead, they said, here, teacher, here's your hard copy of it. You can make copies if you want. Okay, so it's just important to know what you have and what you ordered so you know how you might use it. So I'll tell you this, the homework side of the Homework and Remembering, everyone has it kindergarten through 6th grade. Kindergarten, you don't have homework until, I want to say it's unit 1, like lesson 12, maybe like lesson 16. So you have a couple of weeks of just getting kids used to kindergarten, which we know it takes longer than that, but there's no homework really until then. Once that happens, then in every other grade, you have homework starting right off the gate, first lesson, unit 1, lesson 1. Okay, so the homework side is the practice from that day. So we would probably call it independent practice. Remember, there's 5 different types of practice: independent practice, mass practice, distributed practice, guided practice. So the homework side would be considered that independent. Now, for me personally, I don't use it, right? And the reason is I don't think that it is independent when we're sending it home. And I think that sometimes it forces us as teachers to jump ahead and to push things down kids' throat because we're like, but you have to know this because your homework tonight. And so then we really force and we get kids to move faster through a lesson than maybe we would have, only because we want them to be able to be successful in their homework. Right? So in my opinion, it takes days to build a concept. And so I might send home the homework side, the two-sided piece of homework, the homework side, and then there's a remembering side. I might send the homework side like a week late. right? So maybe last Tuesday's homework actually goes home next Tuesday, because then we've had enough time to actually build the skill. Kids are ready to be independent. If you send it home right away, I feel like there's just this battle going on at home. Mom and dad have no idea really how to help in that concept. Maybe if you're new to expressions, or they're new to that grade level, or if they didn't learn math that way, the kid doesn't really know because they just learned it that day in class and they have some sort of a foundation, but they're probably not ready to be independent, right? And then now it's just frustrational. So I want to avoid that. I also think the homework side is just a lot. There's a lot going on and you don't have time to do the homework side and the remembering side. It's going to take kids over 30 minutes to do that. Now, if you might say, I want you to circle like number 1 and number 5, you can give those a try tonight. And I just want to see how they go. Let's just try it out and see how we do independently. That's different, right? So that's just kind of that checkpoint. Some people use the homework when they come into class as like a bell ringer, like a check-in for the day. Like, just get started on the homework side, and as everyone gets situated, we'll start class and then we'll do it. Okay, obviously kinder, you wouldn't necessarily do that, but there's an option. Okay, you can use the homework as a quiz. You can use the homework in guided groups. You can use the homework as, I just need you to have some additional practice, but I need it more in the springtime when we're getting ready for testing. So I held on to those homework sides because I wanted to revisit many of those concepts, and now we have additional practice. All right, so for me personally, I don't tend to do the homework side of the homework, and it's not where the research was at. The research was really at on the remembering side. Okay, so the remembering side is the distributed practice. And remember, distributed practice is the type of practice that our brains need to continue to revisit things. We've learned it. We had guided practice with the teacher. We had independent practice. We probably had some assessments on it. And now we're bringing it back. Okay, so that's more of that spiral, but we need to keep seeing things over and over again. So the remembering side has all of that spiral review, and then the very last question is a like problem-solving word problem, and it generally has to do with that day's learning. So it's not part of the spiral review, it's separate, and it's the part no one likes to do because it's hard. Okay, so that might be a really good collaborative activity, a good journal activity, something you do as like, okay, in your pods, everyone try to solve that last problem together. I think it's good for kids. It's the part they don't want to do, but it is hard. It's more rigorous. So I think you need to figure out a place for it, but everything else above that problem is all a spiral review. Okay, so it's part of the distributed practice. When we talk about the 4 phases of learning and expressions, we talk about the inquiry phase where we launch and we just want kids to try something out. We want to see what they intuitively do with the mathematics. We go to the phase 2, which is methods in the middle, where now we're going to see and introduce maybe some other methods they hadn't thought about. We'll compare and connect the methods. Then we get to phase 3, which is procedural fluency, meaning now that we've discussed the methods, you need to pick one and go practice it to get good at it. The 4th phase is that I've lost the term of it. So hold on, let me think about it. I just lost it. Inquiry, methods in the middle, procedural fluency, and then it's repeated, but I can't, the name has I've lost the name for it for whatever reason. But it's where we continue to bring learning back. And that's going to be the quick practice, the daily routines, and the remembering side of the homework. When we keep that learning coming back, because we know one and done isn't good enough, okay? They won't remember it. So the remembering side is really, really important. If you're going to send home anything at night for homework, it's going to be with the remembering side. If you don't have time, you don't have the population that supports homework, you don't have a school policy that supports homework, fine. I'm not, either way, I personally don't like homework either. But whatever your decision is, you have to get remembering in every day. So the question I think Sarah had was, how do we do it, or where would it fit in with these other pieces? So if you're not registered right now for my RTI webinars, it's free for my Math Genius Squad members. It's a part of their monthly membership. And if you're not in that, don't worry. You can still sign up. It's just a different date and it's just $7. But I'm going to teach you how it works. Okay, so I want to show you something because this is where I would put the remembering at. I personally don't know that you have time to do the remembering in a regular core classroom. You have 60 minutes. That's how long it takes to teach that core lesson. And I feel like you need that whole 60 minutes just to teach that day's content, right? I don't know that you have time to do that other practice. So if it's not going home, then I think it needs to get plugged into what we call our win time, which is the what I need time. That is your intervention, extension, enrichment time. Every kid is getting what they need. And one thing that every kid needs is distributed practice, spiral review. So the remembering side would fit really, really well there. So if I showed you this real quick, let me show you. Let me see if I can transfer here. Okay, so if you look here, this is part of what I'm going to show you in that webinar. I don't want to go over it in too much detail because it needs more training, but this is how I've always set up my learning group. So if I'm going to go into small groups, and whether this is a small group, maybe it's a small group day, like it's a reteach day. Okay, you're doing your mastery learning loop, you've gotten to a quick quiz, you've evaluated your quick quiz data, you're like, oh my gosh, we have some kids that don't get it, we need to stop and do a reteach day. So you have half the kids with you, you're reteaching them, other half the kids are like, what do they do? The remembering side is a good idea. All right, so you can put it anywhere there. If you're doing a regular win time, like this is happening regularly for you, it might happen in one of these. So this is like a station idea. I don't believe in rotation stations where everyone does every station and we are on time. I just don't think that's actually like differentiated unless you differentiate the stations. But the idea that it should include these, okay? So you have this teacher group and then you have this proof place, this practice plaza, the shop, the fluency factory. I think the remembering falls in either the fluency factory or the practice plaza, where students just now need to review the learning that they've already had. Okay, so this would be a great place for it, and you don't have to come up with anything grand. Like every time you go to that particular station, or it's your checklist if you're in the upper grades of the things that kids have to do, one of the things on their list is always the remembering side of the homework. Okay, maybe you choose 3 of the problems and you say, and you have to prove 3 of them with a manipulative, with a drawing, with a journal response, so that kids really have to think about and bring back that deep learning they've already had. So I'm going to talk more about this in the webinar. Again, make sure you registered for that if you're not, because I'm going to give you all the resources and the way to set up your intervention block for next school year specifically. So make sure you've done that. If you look back here, that I'll show you here in just a minute, and Think Central for this, for the remembering side of the homework. I just lost my train of thought on that. I don't know what's my brain's having a problem today. So you can use it in that small group. You can use it if you're doing a reteach day. The question was, oh, I remember now. Maria asked, is Unit 1 a review of the year prior? And it's not. For most cases. Now, I started to go back and look, so you'll need to look at them. Like 4th grade, yours is. Yours is reviewing the multiplication division they learned in 3rd grade. Because you start the year in addition subtraction. And so if you look at the remembering, you're like, wait, this is all basic, sorry about that, multiplication and division. Then it is a spiral review from the year before. It's a great way to start the year. Grades like 3rd grade, you jump right into multiplication and division in your units. And I noticed that your remembering is multiplication and division also. It's a lot, an additional practice. You have to get past Unit 1 for it to start to spiral and to be distributed. 2nd grade, it really is also a continuation of what you're doing. You're doing addition, subtraction within 20. You're doing fact strategies. Your remembering side was the same thing. So look at it, okay? You can just look at, you'll know what your unit is about, and then you can look at the remembering and say, oh, this is really just in support of that. So if I were you, then I would maybe go back to the year previous. So for that first month of homework, you might want to just pull the last year's spiral review just to kind of get kids regrounded in it. So be strategic. Maybe it's in 2nd grade, for example, you're doing addition, subtraction within 20. You really want your kids working on like their partners of 10 or something. You could go find that remembering from Unit 7, Unit 6, and pull it in as their homework. Now, I'm not a fan of pulling in the unit. Don't go back and remediate. We're not going back to past units. And I'm going to teach you that in the RTI webinar. You don't have time for that. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you can kind of do co-requisites, do things at the same time. But when we're talking about homework, or we're talking about independent practice at like a learning station while I do small groups, that could be a good place to supplement with some of those skills from the year prior that you need to just refresh your kids' memories. Okay, so fractions in 5th grade, why not bring the 3rd grade or the 4th grade remembering side as their homework in the beginning? Because their current homework is going to be really hard. And they may not be ready for independent practice, but they might be ready just to practice unit fractions and some other skills in fractions until you've built the concept well enough in your core class that they can do it for homework. You're staying on grade level during core, but you're going to maybe differentiate what they're practicing independently. Okay, so that's a way to think about their remembering. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so homework 2, please don't spend time grading homework. Waste of time. It's such a waste of time. Don't do that. Okay, the homework is a dipstick analysis, a formative assessment. I'm wondering if we're getting this or not. Some kids have help, some kids don't. It is totally an equitable practice. Okay, so I helped my kid on their homework. John's parents weren't home, didn't help. So what? Is it really accurate? It's just practice. Okay, I might look at them and say who's getting it, who's not. I might have parents write a note. I spent 10 minutes on this. Charlie totally didn't get it. He couldn't remember it. Great, don't finish it then. 10 minutes and you're done. You don't get it done in 10 minutes, it's not independent. We need to do some work on it. But I might just grab papers and really quickly just check, like, glance, glance, glance. Oh, I can see that we're all struggling with number 3. I might go over number 3 as a class. I am not going over every single one of those problems. We do not have time, and that's not the purpose. I will use that data to help me drive maybe what practices tomorrow, maybe a reteach day. But again, if it's the spiral review, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to sit around and grade it. Okay, it's just not effective practice. Yay, Stephanie, for using them. I think if you all just walk away with this idea that you have to do it. Okay, so the homework side, I don't care if you ever do it. Right? Use it for what you want. Use it as a quiz, whatever. I don't sending it home as homework is a good idea unless it is truly independent. But that and the remembering side is a lot of math homework. I don't think your kids should do that much math homework, but you could decide. The remembering side, though, is critical. It is a part of the research of the program. They need to do it.